Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Radio Free Los Angeles. This is Mike Alexander and Jonathan Wilson. And what episode is it tonight?
This is number 50, and it's our one-year anniversary.
All right.
We had our first show on January 21st, 2018.
Amazing.
And this is number 50.
I can't believe it.
The big 50.
Well, congratulations. Happy anniversary to you and to all of you
and
out
to
there.
You.
We've gotten great response to this program over the last year. If you have any comments about the program or any issue that we discuss, you can reach us at 866-870-5752. That is 866-870-KRLA. And we also are up on Facebook. So if you want to listen in or watch in, beware, I can be seen on camera.
Yeah, I'm not on Facebook tonight, so I'm going to be answering calls.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, so Brooke is, I think, out in Palm Springs.
She is, yes.
Family vacation, I believe.
Yeah, they're having a ball. So, but we do have Jeff, our indefatigable board operator here. We're lucky to have them. We're lucky to be on KRLA, and we just signed up for another year, so we're looking forward to it. And so for all of you out there who want to keep the show on the radio, on the air, support us by going to CaliforniaTaxpayers.org. CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org.
Correct.
And how do they contribute there,
Just
Jonathan?
click the Join Contribute button. It's very clear. It's very easy. I've set it up to where you can become a member for any monthly amount.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just remember all these union people out there contributing dues. Speaking of which, before we get into it, this is a great football day for all of those, all of you out there who are great football fans, especially if you're LA Rams fans. They brought the Super Bowl. I almost said back to L.A., but I don't know where it's
No, it's in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they've...
But it was a great day of football, I'll tell you what. I'm not a big Patriots fan, so I was a little disappointed that they pulled it out again. It's not fun rooting against the Patriots.
I tell you, they'll find a way to beat you.
Yeah.
But the other anniversary today is the second anniversary of Donald Trump's inauguration.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you, these people who hate Trump, the never-Trumpers, the nutball media, have absolutely worn me out and exhausted me. I mean, you and I, over the next hour and a half, Jonathan, if we did nothing but, we couldn't even give a one-line summary, a one-sentence summary of every fraud, hustle, and con that they've trotted out to get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
It's just
it gets
been
more
amazing.
and more absurd.
It does. And, but in the meanwhile, what I want you folks to realize is that what we're seeing in Washington right now, and as you know, we don't do the federal follies, as I call them, but we will occasionally relate national issues to the local issues, and as we've discussed many times here, state, federal, and local governments spend over $8 trillion a year. Half of it is spent in Washington, but the other half is spent out here. And when you wonder why we have to put up with people like Nancy Pelosi and her shenanigans, well, the reason is because of the California public employee unions and the rest of the left-wing operation. There is no such thing as merely local or completely national. Those two things are intimately related to each other. And she can go there and behave the way that she behaves because she is secure in her district And I asked you, what keeps her secure in her district? Well, first of all, or other nutball left-wing voters who put her back. But number two, and more importantly, is the support of public employee unions, not only in California, but throughout the country. This woman goes out and solicits money for her election and for the election of other Democrats. And the reason why Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House is because of her fundraising ability. Now you say, hey, enough about the Democrats. Okay, let me talk about the Republicans. Over on the Republican side, particularly in the Senate, it is exactly the same situation with Mitch McConnell. So out here in Los Angeles, as we sit here today, we are in the second week, or coming up on the second week of the teacher strike here in Los Angeles, and I've got a couple of things to say about this. Mostly they're moaning and groaning about not having enough money. So I've got two articles here. I'd love to hear the audience weigh in on this. We want to talk more about it. By the way, at 8:30, we're going to have a wonderful guest here. Her name is Cecilia Iglesias, and Cecilia is part of the California Policy Center, and she works with an organization called Parent Union, and she spends a lot of time working in the inner cities in Orange County, particularly with Latino families, mostly Mexican. When I say Mexican, half of them are Mexican, the others are Mexican-American, but she's right there to talk about these problems and the conditions that these parents are facing. And this, of course, is why we are pushing school choice. More about that here in a little bit. I'll be making a few more announcements before the end of the show. But let's go back in and let's take up the basic issue. Are these teachers, in fact, underpaid? So they're out there arguing for more money, and it's hard to say what they really admit to making. I think they have argued that are willing to admit that the median salary for the Los Angeles Unified School District teacher is $75,000 a year, which in and of itself is not that bad a number.
Right.
But that $75,000 is just base pay. In fact, there's a great article by Ed Ring in the January 16th issue of the California Policy Center.org newsletter. The $75,000 goes back to at least 2014, where they're claiming it was only $70,000. But it's since been acknowledged that in addition to the money that they pay these teachers, they paid during 2013 and 14. Now, these are basically almost 5-year-old numbers, but from 2013 to 14, the district paid $16,432 for benefits for health care and another 13.92% to cover pension contributions. So if you take all of that, this is not including the deficit.
Close to 90,000?
You got it. Make it 96,176.
Wow.
Yeah. So now, but sound like one of those late night TV commercials. But wait, it gets better or worse in this case, despite the fact that that they were at $100,000 a year in salary and benefits 5 years ago. That number is even higher today. But the big story in the Los Angeles Unified School District and elsewhere are the cost of their benefits, and that's what's breaking the system. They are unable to pay more money in salary because the cost of their collateral benefits are going up. And right now, they are carrying an admitted pension liability of $6.8 billion, and their other OPEB, which stands for other post-employment benefits, which include primarily health insurance, has now reached $14.9 billion. Okay, so you got that, Jonathan?
Okay.
Right now, between the pensions out there, folks, between the pensions that are unfunded and unpaid for, and the health insurance benefits, future benefits, the system, LAUSD, is $22 billion underwater.
Wow.
$22 billion underwater. Now, at the same time, you say, "Oh, well, we've got to spend more money." So let's go to an article that I just came across here a couple of days ago, so that you're armed with evidence here. This article comes from governforcalifornia.org, and David Crane is the editor-in-chief or head of that organization. But remember how we've been talking here over the last several weeks that the average per pupil spending in California was just over $16,000. Well, that number, as I told you before, came directly out of the governor's budget for 2018-19. Well, lo and behold, David Crane came up with the more recent budget, and this is the projected budget for 1920. And what do you think that the amount actually is projected for 1920?
Per student?
Per student. Average per pupil spending.
I'm going to guess 17.5.
Make it 17.16.
Okay.
All right, 17,160. You were right on there. Now, going back to last year, and this shows you how budgets vary, because of the formulas that they use, that California spending is largely comprised of a percentage of revenues. If those revenues are higher than they expected, then the projected per pupil spending will rise. And so even though we were sitting here talking about average per pupil spending of being $16,085 per student, so much money came in because of the Trump economy. So much money came in that the average per pupil spending actually went up to $16,857. So they were close to $17,000 last year, and this year it is over $17,000. It'll be $17,160 based on projections. So this is what they say that they can't run their businesses on, and the real secret here is that they don't want to talk about is that state education revenues have been rising, but the salaries haven't kept pace with it. And one of the reasons that the salaries haven't kept pace is because they hire too many people, number one, mostly administrative people. But number two, and most importantly, these people get way too much in benefits. So during this last 5-year period, we have seen LAUSD revenues rise from less than $6 billion to almost $8 billion. And over that 5-year period, we saw LAUSD salaries drop from 35% of revenues to 28%. So what do I mean is that by the way, we've got a caller on line.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll step out.
Yeah, Jonathan's having to do double duty tonight, so he's going to step out. Oh, hey, he's got him, Jonathan. He's grabbed him. Go ahead and have a seat. We're coming up on the 8:30 hour. So in any event, what I was saying here is that even though they have more money come in, they're spending less money on teachers, and that's because during the same time, their retirement costs grew from 8% of revenues to 12% of revenues. Now, I know numbers are hard to do on the radio, guys, but what David just pointed out to us is that the percentage that they had to spend on retirement costs increased by 50%. In 5 years. This stuff is unsustainable. Hey, right. Well, we have George on line one who would like to weigh in on these issues. How are you this evening, George?
I'm doing a lot better than the last time I talked to you. I was on the cell phone on the road, and it was hard, and I couldn't hear you.
Oh, well.
Yes.
Well, welcome back to Radio Free Los Angeles.
Thank you. Yes, I just had this one question. I was
Yes.
thinking about this $75,000 a year and all of the benefits while these people are working, and then the after employment costs of health care and retirement and everything.
Right.
And given the tax and spend mentality of the state and its main responsibility for education, the result of all of this is that California comes up 47th in performance
That's right.
in the whole United States.
Right.
Albeit there are some of, the math Olympics or whatever, out in the San Fernando Valley, there's particular centers of excellence where students do well. But
Sure.
couldn't we find other people, say, on a voucher system that might be willing to take less money and actually return a greater result?
Thank you. George, hang on to that point. Let me add one thing that I know that hope you got your barf bag ready. Yeah, but what the other thing that Ed Ring pointed out is that the average so-called teacher in the LAUSD works just 182 days per year. Everybody out in private industry will work about 240 days per year. So, you see what I mean? In other words, you and I, and I work a lot more than that, but the average employee will work 32% more than the average teacher, and if you prorated their pay and projected it out over the year, their annual pay, even going back to 2014, would have been more like $132,000.
Oh my goodness!
Than $72,000. Okay, so now so when you look at those numbers, and I know that for that kind of money, there are a lot of people who would take those jobs and do a fabulous job. And yes, you're going to see in a voucher system or school choice system a lot of difference, and that's why we at the California Taxpayers Union and many other organizations, this is strictly nonpartisan here, are coming together, and we are going to be sponsoring a school choice initiative, cleverly entitled School Choice 2020. That it'll be going on for the November 2020, the November election in 2020, just about the time they're trying to elect one of those crazy women as president. It's going to be fun.
You're having one February 2nd, is it?
Huh?
You're having one
February 2nd. Yeah,
yes.
That's it. Are you coming?
I might.
Please go
try.
to California. Jonathan, how do they sign up?
Yeah, we set the event. The event page and registration is on our website, and that's
Okay.
you can find that at CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org.
No charge to attend. Yeah, bring a friend if you have one. We'd love to see you there. Bring people from parishes, people from public schools, private schools, parents. We've got people coming from all over Southern California. We really need to see you there, George. And Radio Free Los Angeles and KRLA are going to be there for that event.
Great.
So it's going to be very important.
Yes.
And we know when people say, well, how are we going to get this passed in a Democrat state? Well, the answer is Democrats are going to vote for it. Not the ones with a big D behind their name, the ones with a small d. The people work for a living, the people who have to put their children in these concentration camps that they call local schools, worry about them going to school, worrying about them when they are at school, worrying about them on the way home from school. Yeah,
Yes.
We need better education for everybody that's here. Because we, as you and I know, we have this growing gap here in the state of California.
Yes, and you're talking about the people with the little d and the E type Democrats, not
Yes.
the people up in Sacramento with the big D and the I type Democrats.
Correct. And as a matter of fact, I think one of my most trenchant opponents is the affluent suburban Republican who is quite happy with their own school. They have enough money in their life to own a very nice home in a very wealthy area, and they don't mind the extra taxes because they think that the property prices alone keep the riffraff out of their neighborhoods, so they just don't think about what's happening anyplace else, and they won't vote for anything that they think might change that arrangement. It's awful. It's despicable.
Yes, and this is why your association, your group, makes so much sense and needs every bit of wallop that it can get with this attack on Proposition 13.
Yes.
And the other question I wanted to pose to you is, don't you think that our state government, the legislature and the executive powers and everything, don't you think that they would be put out of business or considered incompetent or incapable of dealing with anything having to do with long-term finances, such as Medicare for all and garbage like this, when they can't deal with the $300 billion and growing, unfunded liability.
Yeah, and George, it's even
for these pensions.
Yeah, George, it's even higher than that. You add them all up at real market rates rather than these phony rates that they're using.
Right.
And that unfunded liability.
$500 million, huh?
Oh, no. More like $1.5 trillion.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, it is out of control.
Oh, my goodness.
And this is why, and I'm telling you, we're going to have to tell parents that they've got to get their children and their money out of that public so-called system that they have. CalPERS, yeah. I mean, you take your kids and you run, because an increasing part of that money is going to go for that. And the fact is, they're not going to change the way they do business. If dropping to 47th, 48th, 50th, however they calculate this nonsense, if that isn't motivation enough to improve their business, nothing ever will be. It can't be fixed. It won't be fixed by anybody from the outside. But to those who tell me, Mike, you take that money away, you're going to ruin the schools, I reply this: No. You already did that.
Yeah.
I can't fix your business for you, but I can work with families to create a better future for them and for their children until you fix your business. And I guarantee you, that those schools will improve. And I can tell you the exact day and the exact time. And that's the first Tuesday in November 2020 at about 10 p.m. Public schools will start to get a lot better because they're going to have competition. George, love having you as a caller here.
Thank you.
Don't be a stranger. Stay tuned, because you and everybody else, you're going to hear from Cecilia Iglesias, who's going to talk to us about her experience with the families that you and I are trying to help here to become part of our society, a full member. This is Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Radio Free Los Angeles. If you want to join us and become part of our show, the number is 866-870-5752. See you on the other side.
Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
Okay, back with you here. Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Radio Free Los Angeles. Not only the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government, but over the next 2 years, we are also the voice of choice in California. That is choice in education, and specifically choice in schools. The crisis in education here in the state of California is profound. The California schools have led the race to the are at the bottom, and the Los Angeles Unified School District has led that race to the bottom. They are at the bottom of the worst state in the of all the states in the union, and if it is 100% accurate, it's accurate enough. So this crisis in education has, like every other crisis, harmed those who are poor, those who are newly arrived in our country, those who are struggling to keep body and soul together and to try to make their way in this very expensive state, in this very difficult state. One of the organizations that has done a lot of work in this area has been the California Policy Center, and this evening we're very fortunate to have as our guest online, calling through, is Cecilia Iglesias. And Cecilia has worked extensively with families, many of whom speak only Spanish, some of whom speak English, but she's worked with them extensively. Cecilia, welcome to Radio Free Los Angeles.
Thank you, Michael, for having me. It's an honor to be in your show and just see if I can contribute a little bit more to the conversation about school choice.
Well, as they say in Spanish, igualmente. All right. That's loosely translated back to you. All right. Now, Cecilia, could you tell us a little bit about the we've talked many times about the California Policy Center. Could you tell us about the particular organization that you work in and the particular work that you do at the California Policy Center?
Yes. So the California Policy Center has different projects that advance education reform.
Mm-hmm.
And the project that I'm heading is called the Parent Union. And what we do is we provide support to parents in Orange County and also in the Inland Empire and hopefully in LA County for them to be the best advocate to choose the best environment, public school environment for their children.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been very fortunate that we have received a lot of support from the parents because naturally every parent, what they want is the best education for their child.
Yes.
So when we start explaining to them, how the public system works and then how the school accountability report cards are reported to the state, and when we bring out the scores, a lot of the parents are shocked because many of their schools within their, the ones that they're assigned to the school district, they are low performing.
Right.
And a lot of them don't think that they have other options other than the school within their zip code.
Right.
So once we get to explain that to them, they know there's other options, which, we have public charter schools, we have homeschooling, we have online learning. And so they're very intrigued by the options that was never explained to them. So we have been very successful with the Parent Union in providing those information to them.
Right. Now, underlying all of this is a system that's failing across the board. What are the schools that you work with most commonly? Would those be Santa Ana, Garden Grove, Westminster? What?
Correct. It's Santa Ana, Anaheim, Garden Grove, and we haven't gone into Westminster, but Costa Mesa and Huntington Beach.
Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
And then mostly it's, the communities where we have mostly Latino parents.
Right.
And those are the schools that are I would say the worst performing because the academic achievement, both English and in reading proficiency,
right,
is below 30%. And that's a travesty, and it's not. And I believe what it happens is the institution takes advantage of our community,
right,
because they really don't know how to voice their rights. but with the parent union, we have been very instrumental in providing these resources to the parents. So now they're becoming informed, and they're asking for the things that they need for their child, like tutoring and after-school programs for them to be successful.
Right. Well, they got to love you.
Yes. The parents love me.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you and I, of course, had an opportunity to talk about this here last week. But I know in my own experience, and I mean, everybody knows this. You go in the poorer neighborhoods, and everybody thinks that they can treat the Mexicans. In many cases, they're Mexicans, not Mexican Americans. A lot of them are just not here legally. You can treat those people badly. People are stuck in the neighborhood, people of color, people with low income. They just get treated badly by the public school system because their parents are not well connected. They don't know how to bring pressure on the system. They don't know how to sue, all that sort of thing. And it just becomes kind of impossible to change the system. I mean, what you guys are doing there is fantastic work, but of course, it's just a Band-Aid at best. Would you agree?
It's a start. It's a start to a movement, and I believe it's getting the like you're saying, that the public school system to wake up. Mm-hmm. That as a parent community, especially like in the Latino community, we're no longer going to be taken for granted.
Right.
We are the customer, and our kids are their customer, so they better provide the best education possible.
How do they
we have options.
How do they react to that capitalist vocabulary? We're the customer. Oh, man, that's got to burn them right there.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, jeez. Because they're sassy. They're sassy. They're vicious. Yeah.
Yes. But, what I've noticed is, they're stepping up. I mean, not as fast as we want them to.
Yeah.
So if they want to keep, if they want to keep the customer happy, they need to step it up, 100% more.
Exactly. Well, you and I discussed, the new school choice initiative that we're going to be pushing, and in fact, a large part of the contents of this particular initiative was developed by some people very close to your organization. John Kruger and his team down there had worked with Senator Morlock to develop an educational savings account plan. That's what we're going to be pushing here for the November 2020 ballot. That program, as you know, would create an educational savings account for each child K through 12. And it would be deposited into that account each year. The annual per pupil expenditure for California, and that number is now going to be about $17,100 for 19 and 20. Believe it or not, Cecilia.
Wow!
Right now, the parents get to choose the school. They can take that money, and under the new constitutional amendment, they can take that money and put their kid in a public school, a charter school, an accredited private school or parochial school. It's all up to them. What do you think the reaction of the Latino parents that you deal with would be?
I know that many of the Latino parents, if they had an opportunity to send their kids into a private school of their choice, they would choose that, because I know many of them, especially among the Latino community, many Catholics.
Yes.
And a lot of Christians too. So they have private schools that they would love to send their kids. And so this program would be just, something that they've been, in a way, praying for.
Yes.
For something, an opportunity for their families. So yes. I believe it's going to be well received among our Latino community, because what we want, the reason why we come here is because we know we can have like that American dream, and the only way to achieve that is through education.
That's right. Yeah, we've got to do it. And for those of us who are here, have been here, who are natives or nearly so, we have this this common problem of a society which has this deep chasm in between. At the very top are some of the most affluent and highly educated people in the country and in the world, therefore. And then we have an increasing number of people gathered at the bottom who are on welfare, they're in poor schools, and they don't have any path towards upward mobility, when you and I know that the record here in America, the pathway to success is paved with assimilation. It requires English. It requires an understanding of American history, of American law and customs, and that provides a gateway not only to industry and the ability to prosper, but it provides a gateway into full participation in our democracy. And we have this large unassimilated mass of people who may or may not be citizens. Lots of them are here because they're born here, but we have this gap, and it seems to me that only a system of private education is going to be able to bridge that gap. What are your impressions about the problem, Cecilia, and what the solutions might be?
Well, what I believe is private education works for some of them. You know, and some parents are happy with the public school system.
Yes.
You know, they just want a little bit more to ensure that their kids have the opportunities to, like you were saying, you know, to upward mobility.
Yes.
And I believe, you know, it's going to take everyone to be able to know that we have different options, and the ESA project that you're mentioning.
Yes.
I think it would bring a lot of opportunities for our families.
Yes.
So you know, I know that it's going to be a win-win for our community, and our community is going to embrace it. We just have to make sure that we get, you know, in front of promoting it before the opposition starts, you know, dismantling our.
Yes, yeah.
Our project.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's going to draw money and opposition from Mars.
Yeah.
The minute we put this on the ballot, you're going to see Soviet tank divisions moving from Chicago, New York, Moscow, Washington, D.C., every cesspool of liberalism in the universe. They're going to come out here and campaign against it. And, and there's going to be these whispers, Cecilia. And you know what I'm going to hear, because you know the circles that I probably move in. And they're going to whisper in my ear. They're going to say, Mike, look, are you serious about this? Yes. You say, now, if I understand your proposal, you're talking the parents are going to make this decision about where to send the schools. Is that send the kids to school? Is that right? Yeah. So now look, and they're going to look left and they're going to look right, and they're going to say, look, do you think that these people, right? You know that euphemism, these people. Do you think these people really know what the hell they're doing? We can't rely upon them to do that. That's going to be the whispering campaign. You know what my response will be, and that is that I think they're going to do a great job, and they certainly couldn't do any worse than the current system. I mean, how do you do worse than 47th, 48th, 49th, or 50th? How do you possibly do worse? But I'll say something else. I don't care where those parents came from. I don't care whether they're right out of the Andes in Peru, and I've seen them. You've seen them too. You know, they show up here, man, hill people, Indians, Los Indios. You see them. I believe that those people will do just as good a job for their children as my mother and father did for me. I have total and complete confidence in the parents.
Yeah, and same here. And I know the parents want the best, even though they may be limited in understanding like the whole bureaucracy, because it's so complicated. I mean,
yes.
It's not.
Yeah, and intentionally so.
Yeah.
And so what does it take to get a straight answer out of the system? Answer, a platoon of lawyers, the California Policy Center, $1 million, and Cecilia Iglesias. You know? Yeah, and then you start all over again on Thursday. You know, and that's why I hope that you'll be able to attend our school choice summit. That's going, I'll put in the ad right now so people know it. you can go to CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org and click the register button there. And this event is going to be on Saturday, February 2nd, 2019. Registration will be at 0800, 8 o'clock in the morning, and the program will begin at 9 a.m. We don't have the speaker schedule set yet, but there's going to be some great speakers. KRLA is going to be there. I think some of our other broadcasters here from the station are going to attend. It's going to be a great event. And by the way, everybody out there, Cecilia Iglesias is going to be there. Okay, so you're going to be the big draw, and I hope that you bring some parents with you from down there, because it's for them, and I believe that if we're going to take our country back, Cecilia, we must first take back our children, their hearts, their minds, and their souls.
Correct.
We have to get that part right, you know.
And then with this, definitely we are. And I don't know if you've already announced, but today is the start of the National School Choice Week celebration.
I have it marked down here, and you're stealing my thunder. You looking for my job? Oh, my goodness. Yeah, tell us all about that, would you?
Yeah, so today is a National School Choice Week celebration. Started off today, and it's going to go throughout the week.
Uh-huh.
And what it does, we just, we celebrate the different options that we have, which is, the public school systems at the district, the public charter schools, online learning, private schools, any type of education for our kids K through 12. So we're celebrating.
Yes.
And with the California Policy Center and the Parent Union, we are going to be celebrating this Saturday at the Salvation Army here in Santa Ana.
Uh-huh.
For us to celebrate all these different wonderful options that our parents have. So,
hey, be sure
welcome to join us.
Be sure to send me that. Let's go over that again. Your event is going to be Saturday, January 26th. What time?
It's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. At the Salvation Army Santa Ana Temple.
Santa Ana, okay.
Uh-huh. And then the address is 1710 West Edinger Avenue in Santa Ana, and then the zip code is 92703.
Good. Now, will that be on the California Policy Center website?
Yes.
Okay, and that, ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite websites, one of my favorite organizations, CaliforniaPolicyCenter.org. Somewhere on there will be the key to the event, and we will link to that as well so people know about this. Very important. And what I wanted to say to everybody out there, you've got people like Cecilia and our group here in the Policy Center, and lots of think tanks, geeks, and everybody else, conservative pundits and so forth. But let me tell you, we can't do this. If you're going to take your children back, if you're going to take your country back, it's really going to take parents and families to do it. The swamp is just as tough out here as it is in Washington, and we're going to have to go into every neighborhood. And if you're white bread like me, you're going to have to, of course, I grew up in these neighborhoods, but you're going to have the courage to reach out into these neighborhoods, go down there, and let them know that you're working on this project and that it's a lie that we don't care. And look at the California Policy Center. You look at your board of directors, and they're all a bunch of white guys. And yet here's here's this wonderful program that you're doing. Yes, we care. It's a lie that we don't care. And we have to get out there and show it. And when we show up and people know that we care, you can feel the love and the appreciation because you're speaking their language. And very often it's also a language of faith that we share. And a concern about their future, and they have a deep desire to learn English, to learn what the rules are in our society, and to become part and to get their part of this wonderful country. And we could turn this state around, by creating more and better qualified employees, and most importantly, making sure that every child, no matter where they came from, no matter what language is spoken at home, has a grasp of the English language. In its written and spoken form. And that is in decline, and it's not just in the Latino neighborhoods; it's everywhere. So quality education is huge. You know, I have to apologize. I've spoken too much. Cynthia, you're doing a lot out there. What is the most common complaint that you hear from parents about the system? Is it culture? What's being taught? What's not being taught? What?
No, the constant complaint that I get from parents is that they don't get the resources that their kids need in order for them to be academically successful. Most of the parents, their number one ask is always, tutoring and assistance for their child to be at grade level. And the first thing that they get, at the front is, we don't have money. We don't have money to pay for this. We don't have money to pay.
Right? Yeah.
But
17,000 a year.
Lie.
Yeah, a lie. I know they lie so much. Hey, how do they feel about all this gender bending stuff and the social agenda? Teaching kids how many different sexes they might want to be.
I've heard from parents, especially like from the church congregation, from the members. They're not happy that they're teaching their children that, because what they want is their children to be able to read and write and do math.
Yes.
I mean, that's why they send their kids to school for. For us, this other stuff is like, leave this up to us. We are the parents. So, they the ones that are a little bit more involved with what's going on with the curriculum. My take is, they're upset not because they're what they're teaching. The reason is because they're teaching it at school. I mean, because let me be the parent. I can tell you what I want my child to learn or not learn when it comes to stuff like that, because those are more principles and values.
Yes.
Versus the other ones. We send our kids so they can read, write, and do math. I mean, that's what we want for them to.
Yes. Yeah.
To at school. That's what we send them to school. Let us be the parents.
Yeah, we just can't have these kids sitting out there. What is the next step? Now you've got this. How many minutes do we have, Jeff?
Just about a minute.
I got about 1 minute, but you got a minute to go. We need to have you back on because I want to talk to you more about the parent union, how that works, how parents get signed up. In fact, we've got enough time if parents anywhere, but particularly in Orange County, the Inland Empire, would like to know more about the parent union. Where do they go?
Okay, we have a website. It's www.parentunion.org. And we also have a Facebook page, which is called The Parent Union. So you'll see there the things that we've been doing. And I just wanted to report that yesterday we had our first annual Parent Union in Riverside, the school choice fair. So that was very successful. So I'm looking forward to many more to come. So
fantastic. Hey, you hear that music? That means our half hour is up. Cecilia Iglesias from the California Policy Center and the Parent Union, thank you so much for leading us off here in National School Choice Week. And I look forward to seeing you at our event in February, just a week and a half from now, 2 weeks from now. All right, see you there. You're welcome, ma'am. Take care. Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Radio Free Los Angeles, back with you after the 9 o'clock news.
Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, thank you. Back with you here, Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson. Jonathan's in there doing the phone screening because the lovely Miss Brooke is out tonight and spending some time with her family. So we're back into the 9 o'clock hour. We go for another half hour, and this week, as you know, is a week of anniversaries and big events. First of all, it's our last show or first show of the next season. I think first show, and we're glad to be back on KRLA for another year here. It is the beginning of National School Choice Week, and tomorrow, of course, is the holiday for marking Martin Luther King's life and death and so forth, but particularly commemorating the critical role that he played in civil rights in the middle of the last century, and his legacy is with us today. And I think it's part of that legacy and the issue of civil rights that our next caller would like to discuss. Brent, welcome back to Radio Free Los Angeles.
Thank you. Hi, Mike. I wanted to congratulate you for a wonderful first year.
Thank you.
May you have many more, and may you soon be given more hours, and Salem Network start paying you.
We'll see. We got to go out there and grab some advertisers. I think we've demonstrated our. I always have trouble. I was a Latin scholar as a young man, so I always pronounce things bona fides, right? Mm-hmm. The good faith. I think people call it bona fides or fide. I can never remember how to say it wrong. Mm-hmm. So at any rate, I think we've established our street creds here, and we've attracted a nice audience. And as always, it's the audience that makes the show, and we get wonderful callers. I know a lot of people listen but don't call in. I'd love to hear from you, many more of you, at 866-870-5752. Brent, what is your comment for tonight?
Yeah, I wanted to say, rather than promoting this so much as a school choice issue, I consider this a First Amendment constitutional issue.
Yes.
The issue of free speech and freedom of religion. And
yes.
It's... this word choice is so misused. Just recently there was a pro-choice march for women choosing death for their children.
Yes.
And what we're doing is choosing, as you said, choosing the heart and the mind and the soul, and choosing science and truth and sanity.
Yes.
And that's what this issue is about. And so I would encourage everybody with children, without children, anybody who cares about civil rights and human decency to come and attend this school choice meeting.
Yes. By the way, did you already sign up, Brent?
Yes, I have.
Oh, excellent. Good.
I look forward to seeing you.
Yes. Same here. As I mentioned, KRLA's going to have a banner there. I think we're going to be broadcasting from there, or at least we will be recording remotely.
Beautiful.
So it's going to be a nice event, and I think we're all going to be surprised. And once again, I want to encourage everybody to go to CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org and click on that. Very soon, we are going to be putting up our School Choice 2020.org website. We hope to have that up and operating this coming week. Then we'll shift everything to there to keep it kind of purely educational freedom. But you're quite right; it is a major civil rights issue, and the fact is, over 100 years ago, and most people, by the way, we've talked about this before, but most people don't realize that prior to 1900, nothing like our so-called school system existed. Mm-hmm. Universal education. Well, education might have been nearly universal, but it wasn't institutionalized, and the students were not conscripted and forced into these schools. People often forget that there were actually school riots back in New York when they first tried to make parents send kids to schools. Prior to that time, children were a big part of the farm and of the family. And for the last 100 years, we've had this very artificial social institution called the school. It's out of control. It has been subjected to political control, What we know is the California school system and the California Teachers Association is nothing more than the political arm of one party.
Yes.
That's all it is.
The left conscripts language, and it takes a word, a magnificent word like school and education, and they pervert it and distort it. They, just like with liberalism, they're not liberals. You're a liberal. I'm a liberal. We're the true liberals, and they took the words that describe the reality of true progress, and they try to make people believe that they somehow are the future, that they're progress.
That's right.
The opposite is true.
The opposite is true. Absolutely. Well, Brent, I want you to listen in because our next caller had to go by a different name for obvious reasons because he is actually a Los Angeles Unified School District teacher, and he has a few comments, a little different perspective, and maybe he disagrees with me in a few areas, so it'll be interesting to hear what he has. Brent, I look forward to to meeting you once again. That event is School Choice Summit, Saturday, February 2nd, 2019. Go to be over in Pasadena, very accessible from all freeways. And go to CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org and sign up there.
It's an architectural masterpiece where you're having it.
Yes, the Romanesque room. You'll love it. Hey, Brent, take care. Talk soon.
Bye.
Next, we have Ben from Los Angeles. Ben, how are you this evening? Thank you for calling Radio Free Los Angeles.
Hi, Mike. I'm blessed. Thank you for taking my phone call.
You're very welcome. Fire away.
Okay, so some of the stuff I agree with you wholeheartedly. Some of the issues, transgender, that kind of stuff that they're really forcing down everybody's throat, and we don't really have a say. A person that identifies as a girl, but has male anatomy, goes into a bathroom. And there's plenty of us teachers that are actually on the conservative leaning side. Both fiscally and morally, and we see this stuff, and we can't. It's really hard to stick your neck out there because it is very political. The part I would disagree with you respectfully on is the 10 months getting a 10-month salary divided over 12 months. If we had it our way, we would love to teach those other 2 months. But right now, at least in my district, how they do it is that all goes to remediation. So unless you're a math or an English teacher and they need, credit recovery for the kids that fail out, those are the kids that get the summer school. But the kids that are largely keeping the test scores and all that kind of good stuff afloat, those kids and their parents don't have access to the summer school. It's kind of like you're rewarding the wrong behavior, and I just wanted to say that.
Sure. Hey, let me say this, Ben.
Oh, go ahead.
I know that just to make your point, I know that there are many, many fine teachers who are in fact undercompensated, and I know that those teachers. Let's go back to a number that I mentioned last week. The numbers, just going back a few years, show that there's $278,000 in revenue coming into LAUSD for each teacher. Obviously, you're not getting that money.
No,
you're maybe getting upwards maybe half. If we calculate wages, benefits, the underfunded portion of the pension, so forth and so on. You're maybe getting half of it. So, the classrooms don't cost you anything because those are built out of bonds. Probably the furniture doesn't cost anything. Maintenance is a factor. You've got to have some administration, somebody to keep things going. But there may be a school nurse, but no matter how you cut it, there's not another $150,000 worth of cost in that classroom of 25 students, or whatever it might be, 25 or 30. So the marketplace needs to reallocate those monies, and that's why we are confident that under a system of of school choice, real competitive market pressures will come into play, and really good teachers will be in high demand, and they will be rewarded accordingly, just as any other profession. What is your reaction to our proposal, Ben? If that is your name.
I like some of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But just to keep in mind, when you become a teacher, you start out after the bachelor's degree. Then there's another 20 or so units that you have to get a teaching credential, which you have to renew every a couple of years, every 5 years or something like that. And they don't really pay you on how good you are per se. They pay you on how many degrees or units you have up to him. So, you could easily go into, $80,000 to $100,000 of debt to starting out making $43,000-$45,000, and you're already upside down. So, the teachers, well, we don't do it for the money. I will say that, like the caller before me talked about, it's the left that's really, messing everything up. The school's about accountability. You want to see the public school or any private school, any school run well, you have to make them accountable. And right now what's happening is they're trying to make the adults accountable for the students, but they don't allow the teachers to hold the students accountable. And so, with all due respect to some of the lady that from Santa Ana that you had interviewed, I've seen, we have some great parents. The majority of my students and their families are great. They put a high emphasis on education, no matter the area that they come from. That's awesome. But then you talk about 3% that, really look at school as free babysitting, and those are the kids that are raising Cain. And so, if you're not allowed to hold students accountable, not only for behavior, but academic, then, it doesn't matter where you're going to go. If it's the same type of left policy, where, it's just a kid, so let them act however they want to act, you're going to have the same issues.
That's right. And there will undoubtedly be schools that will be nothing but glorified babysitting operations like they are right now. And I agree with you. And teachers like you will find many places in this world where your talents will be welcomed and where you will have control over the student body. My children went to schools where antisocial behavior was not tolerated. So if a kid was messing around, he could do it once or twice. If he was disrupting the classes, that kid would be out of there. And all the parents understood that. And
Mike, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to add,
sure.
The district is limiting the amount of suspensions at the school site.
Right, because
it's not official policy, but I'm going to tell you it happens. And then on the school report card, they brag about it. And, the teachers are sitting in meetings, they're all rolling their eyes when their administrators are telling us about, we have, 1% of suspensions the entire year. And we're all looking at each other going, that's because you chuckleheads don't suspend these kids. And then the behavior gets out of control. And of course, like any, rotten fruit, it starts spoiling the rest when you show a child that, his classmate can curse out the teacher or do something crazy like that. And then, nothing happens. Because if you suspend them, they're not learning anything. Well, they're obviously not here to learn.
And it's all about revenue to the school, because when they kick that kid out, they don't get their per diem. So it's all about the revenue, and it's all about the union system, and this educational code is passed by the people who run the system, the unions, and it's designed to rig the whole system so that nobody can be held accountable. You have perfect long-term tenure. Everybody's got a built-in excuse for failure. And then when the parents come and so forth, the teacher has a ready-made list of excuses for non-performance, many of which are real, but none of which are ultimately acceptable. So we have to give the money and the children back to the parents to let them go make better choices. Let me just ask you this. What you teach in the LAUSD, what part of town do you teach in right now? West Side, Central, South, what?
Rather not state. We'll just call it inner city.
Inner city, right. So, you're dealing with a lot of Latino parents Do you? I'll ask you the same question that I asked Cecilia Iglesias earlier. Do you have confidence in the ability of the parents to make decisions at least as good about their children's education as the decisions currently being made by the bureaucrats?
I would say it depends on the parent, just like, it depends on the teacher, it depends on the student. If everybody is held accountable for their part, back in the day, they used to look at education as a pyramid. So 1/3 is a teacher, 1/3 is a parent, 1/3 is a student. It all works together to get that 100%.
Right.
But, it really depends. If there's a parent advocating for their child, that's great to see, because, I'm a parent myself and I advocate for my children.
Right.
And, so that's what I would say. I mean, it's a really complicated issue, and there's not an easy answer, but
right.
The easiest one I can tell you is accountability.
Yeah, exactly. And the people who are going to control and determine accountability can only ultimately be the parents. So if you have a system of accreditation, which accredits schools, then at least in theory, any school is as good as any other. That's what the state is telling us right now. So if the parents pick one of those accredited institutions, it should be all right. And if they want to continue where they are, they can continue where they are. And that's why we say in the School Choice 2020 movement here, if you like your public school, you can keep your public school. Right?
That's hilarious.
If you like your public school teacher, you can keep your public school teacher, right? So, I can't wait to lay that one on them. And we're going to be now, Ben. We know that your name is something else other than that, but I hope that whether it's under your assumed name, your nom de plume, or your nom de radio, that you will go to CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org and register and come, and be sure to come up and see me and let me know that we've spoken on the radio before. Come and hear and participate, and bring some parents with you if you want, or some other teachers. This is going to go forward, and this is a great civil rights battle that belongs to us all. So I hope that we will see you there. No cost to attend.
I'll check out that website. Thank you.
Yeah, you betcha, my friend. Thank you so much for calling in, Ben. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. Be sure to stay in touch with us throughout this campaign, okay?
You got it. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Good night. All right. So at any rate, we're at 9:25. I don't know, Jonathan. Did you bring anything tonight for Government Grifter of the Week award? I'm on a little bit tape delay. You let me know. We might not be able to do it tonight because he's been busy. Oh, okay. He's emotioning to me that he has sit down and finish out the show with me here. So no Government Grifter of the Week or
this week. We'll have a special one next week.
Yeah, special one next week. Yeah, we'll just put the whole LAUSD on the Government Grifter of the Millennium Award.
Well, I'll tell you what, those were two really good calls.
Yeah.
You got Brent and then Ben. Mm-hmm. I thought Ben had some thoughtful input.
Yeah, Ben lives in the belly of the beast.
Yeah.
And
I hope he shows up for the event.
Me too, and other teachers. For all of you teachers out there, and I know that you don't have control in your classroom. And that's quite deliberate to make sure that you don't have control in your classroom so they can keep the classrooms filled to keep the revenue coming in.
I can't believe they limit the suspensions.
Well, sure they do. It's a gimmick.
Wow.
It's all a fraud, a hustle, and a con. Everything they do, everything that they say, every number that they calculate, every statistic that they use, every calculation that they make is a lie. Every last damn one of them is a lie. Yeah. Starting with the pensions to the salary claims, the success, and unfortunately for them, there are objective criteria by which schools are measured, and the California schools led at the bottom by LAUSD come in at the very bottom of that very easy scale. So LAUSD, does it or does it not have a 50% dropout rate? I think by the time you get to high school, it's a 50% dropout rate. So anybody can drop out of that place, drops out. It's crazy.
And how ironic is it that we're launching National School Choice Week and our LA teachers are on strike?
It's
still
perfect.
on strike. Yeah. It's very,
stay out there, guys.
Yeah.
Keep it going. We're on a roll here. Nationally, we've got something like 15 to 17% of the government shut down. I say go for 30%. I don't call it chaos. I don't call it a hardship. I call it a good beginning.
Exactly.
And all this worthless teacher trash that is out on strike here in Los Angeles. I hope you're all canceling your dues and canceling your membership and coming to our event. You need to support better working conditions, and those better working conditions can be secured by you having choice in education. Remember, it's not just parents and families who are deprived of choice in education. It's also teaching professionals who have very limited choices. I know that you could work at Catholic schools or private schools, but many of those private schools and Catholic schools do not pay that much, or maybe your religion and values aren't in line with them. So it's a tough choice. You need choice too. And we're going to be relying upon all of you great teachers out there to work with good managers, good businessmen, good, trigger warning, capitalists, who will create great schools of the future. And it starts right here on Radio Free Los Angeles.
Great show tonight.
Hey, well,
Mike, and I really enjoed your guest, Cecilia.
Yeah, she's
I think
fabulous.
She's a warrior for truth.
She is, and she is the voice and the accent of the future. And that's one that we're going to secure for California. Thanks for being with us. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Jonathan Wilson, Mike Alexander, over and out.